This week on Media Delta, Raiders of the Lost Ark. A movie so good, some might say, that it'll melt your face right off. Hello and welcome to another episode of Media Delta. After last week's episode, we kind of needed something a little bit better than The Wizard. So I went and looked at things and I'm like, oh, what are some really good movies really good movies that would be something to look at. And we haven't really done outside of maybe we've done a few. But like the really, really big name things, because I try and look at things that are not like either more obscure or like somewhat like partially obscure. I don't usually do like the super famous stuff. At least I try not to focus on those. We've definitely done some of those. But we definitely got a big name here. We're talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark today, which is the first Indiana Jones movie. If you are somehow not familiar with Indiana Jones and you are someone interested in movies, Indiana Jones is I don't know what the proper term is, but like it's not a parody, but it's a tribute to like 1930s, 40s serials that would show like before movies at the era. And basically stars a archaeologist, Indiana Jones, who goes and finds various treasures, usually accosted by the Nazis, unless you're the fourth movie. But yeah, that's pretty much that. I obviously did not watch this alone, as usual. So please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Max, and I'm here for some good old Nazi punching.
I am, of course, Deathmaster 780.
Again, we see there's nothing you possess, which Norman Rafferty cannot take away.
I'm... God damn it!
Just the tiniest of noises. That's your call-in.
I'm hoping type this. I got fucking nothing. No thoughts, head empty.
All right. Well, yeah. So Raiders of the Lost Ark is a very well-respected movie for good reason. It is directed by Steven Spielberg. Actually, at least partially written by George Lucas. And yeah, it's weird trying to describe Raiders of the Lost Ark, because it's one of those that's like, I figure most people have seen this movie at this point, but this is, I know that there are people that haven't, like me, for example, who did not watch this until I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But yeah. I really do not have a whole lot to say about this because it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. I figure, why don't we just go ahead and do this? There's not really any questions this time. We're just going to go round robin and kind of discuss what we thought of the movie and anything we wanted to bring up. So, X, what are your thoughts on this movie, and what is something you'd want to bring up?
I mean, first of all, thank you for picking this movie, because last week was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And god damn it, we needed something to pull ourselves out of that quagmire. And it's a fucking breath of fresh air. But this is one of the best films ever made. And I don't use that term lightly. That preserve that for movies like The Thing. But like as far as action movies go, I mean, this is one of the most important films, I think, and a movie that absolutely needs to be watched. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it, because it's such a fantastic film. It's great because like watching it, you watch it and there's like the sets all look like sets. You can tell that it's a set. It doesn't hide the fact that they're on sets, but they're just so well detailed and lovingly made that you kind of just let it go and you just go along with it, and it's just so much fun to watch. Plenty of Nazi punching, which I'm obviously totally down for. Absolutely fantastic. God, I could easily rave about this movie for hours. It's just an enjoyable ride with only one minor hiccup. that I've always found, and it's because they cut a scene from the movie, and that is that Indiana Jones knows to not look at the Ark at the end of the movie, but at no point during the movie, at least the cut that we watched, does he ever learn that. He just knows it. So that kind of is probably my only criticism of the film is that particular bit. But other than that, I mean, it's got great acting. The cast is fantastic. The story is pretty good, and the special effects are cheesy, but they're still good. I think they hold up still, and yeah, it's just a really fantastic film.
All right. Death Master.
Yeah, it's all right.
That's it.
It's a good movie. It's not one of my favorites, and it's not my favorite in the series, but I like it.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Rafferty.
I love this movie. I get I'm old enough to have seen it like first run in the theater, and people were amazed by the movie because it's nonstop action sequences, and this is like, I'm gonna sound like an old person. This is like the golden age of practical effects. So the whole long chase sequence when they're trying to drive the Ark and Indy has to beat up everybody and fall off the truck, fall off the truck and then get back on it. There's just so much action sequences, and yeah, this was like the meeting between at the height of their filmmaking powers, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, and they just clicked. They were both fans of the old 30s and 40s serials that you were talking about, so they just wanted to make that. They had a lot of creative energy going on. They also got Lawrence Kasdan in for this. That's the Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi guy. So he's got his stuff. And so they went and made it. It was one of the first blockbusters, or in the blockbuster era, so it opened wide on a lot of theaters. And Harrison Ford is also at his best, because there's all that improv in the movie, because there's a fair number of lines that are improv. The famous sword fighting sequence where he pulls out the gun is improv. And
horribly sick, yes.
I was going to say, that was his ass improving that scene.
Yeah, he was just, there's a couple other ones too. And it's just, I thought it was written with Harrison Ford in mind, but it turns out there's like a mile long of other people who could have been. They could have gotten Michael Bain in there, Bruce Boxleitner. Oh my stars! Imagine if he was in there.
That would be interesting.
IMDb claims Christopher Guest was considered. Like, I'm just trying to get my brain around that, and of course David Hasselhoff. But no, I mean,
my brain cannot wrap itself around the idea of Hasselhoff as
I could absolutely see a Hasselhoff, but
my brain rejects the image of Jones as Hasselhoff.
It wouldn't be good, but I could see Hasselhoff.
Harrison Ford owns this movie because he has there's a rare quality that started to show up again in The Bourne Identity, which was a lot of action movie actors sometimes have the problem that they can't look like they're getting their ass kicked. Like Bruce Campbell is really good at that, where like when you watch the Evil Dead movies, he looks like he's taking a beating, and he looks like he's having a bad day. And Harrison Ford, especially in this movie, looks like he's having a bad day, so you believe it. I mean, even though he does unrealistic things like, fall off a truck, drag himself back onto it, and then punch a guy. By the way, Harrison Ford's been shot. So, Indy's been shot while he's doing it. I mean, the fact that he does all that, he is superhuman, but you really believe it when he sells it. And there's a problem where a lot of the imitators didn't really understand that, you got to make these guys bloody, bruised, battered. I mean, that comes up again with Die Hard, which I think you covered before on the show.
We did. It is actually a one. And yes, Bruce Willis is also an expert at eating shit.
Yes.
Right. And so
he sells it. They're very good at selling their scenes.
So that's what and the movie also has got great pacing. I mean, the big complaint I think is there's a lot that's cut out. The submarine thing was something people used to make fun of all the freaking time. You guys remember that part, right?
With the U-boat that just kind of
he gets off his boat, goes and jumps and gets on a U-boat, And then suddenly they're at a secret Nazi island, and this was the refrigerator of its day. This was everyone was asking, wait, how does that happen? That's a submarine. What happens when it submerges? Doesn't he drown? Nope. Next scene, everybody loves this movie. It's nominated for a Best Picture Oscar. There's a lot of things that are just cut out of the movie that can make those jolts. And that was the kind of stuff people were complaining about back then. But the movie's well paced. It's just great to watch.
All right. Torpo.
I fucking love this movie so much. It's such a good movie. I mean, Rafferty said a lot of it. Like, yeah, it's really well paced, really well shot too. Like a lot of the camera angles are actually really well done. The writing's solid. And yeah, as was mentioned, it was also an absolutely hellish shoot. It is one of those rare shoots that came in under deadline. Because everyone was sick as hell. Incredibly fucking sick, except for Lucas, who brought his own stash of SpaghettiOs.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It is an incredibly Lucas move, yeah. But yeah, it's an absolutely fantastic movie. It's kind of fascinating knowing that it came out under such really awful conditions unintentionally, to some extent. But it's absolutely fantastic. It really is. Nobody but Harrison Ford at this point could be Jones. He owned the role so perfectly, did it so well, and so fantastically. And like, yeah, there are other characters. There is John Rhys Davies, who unfortunately plays an Egyptian man named Salah, but does a good job regardless. And then there's I forget who plays Marion.
I just had it up. It's someone who I'm not super familiar with. But Karen Allen.
Yeah, Karen Allen does a good job as Marion, though one complaint is that Marion does nothing but get kidnapped over and over and over. Which
Also, there's one thing that I kind of forget about, except when I watch Raiders, is when Marion is first introduced, and I know this is kind of a small quibble. If you talk like how she talks about how Jones basically left her after like being her lover for a little while, there's a lot of innuendo there that makes it sound like she was super young when that happened.
No, she was.
Oh, that's cut material. She was indeed super young when it happened. Underage in one of the drafts. They cut
one of the drafts. Okay, yes. I was because I later looked up the numbers and it like no, actually she wasn't a literal child. She was young though.
Oh, okay. It's like
it depends on which you can find online. You can find copies of script meetings where they took dictation, where Lucas and Spielberg banged it out. And yeah, it depends on what but yeah, no, she was super young, and they cut that out because once again, interfered with the flow and raised questions they didn't want to answer.
Yeah, like okay, because I was like, are they like implying that he's like a pedophile or something like that? But no.
According to IMDb, one draft had Indy as 25 and her as 15.
Right.
And also, this is the 1980s. They were writing. Winger had a hit with the song 17. She's only 17. They were creepy back then.
I mean, one of the old popular songs was "Young Girl."
Yeah.
Yeah, they edited the numbers. There's still the 10-year time difference though, but yeah, no, it's.
I mean that's a different thing, but yeah,
that's a different beast entirely. But yeah, no, they changed the numbers, so it was not completely awful.
Yeah, but you're just like, oh, right, but okay, yeah, that makes it a little bit better.
Take place during then again?
1938, I think.
Before World War II got going.
Basically. Yeah, I think it's 1936 because I remember when Temple of Doom comes out. Temple of Doom is set in 1933, and Harrison Ford in interviews commented, "This movie takes place 2.5 years before the previous one, and I made that one 2.5 years, so I've aged 5 years." And then he pauses and says, "I can feel the difference."
Yep, 19 according to Wikipedia, it is in fact 1936.
Okay, so I was wrong. She would have been 17. So. Terrible. Regardless.
Yeah.
Moving on. I when I read the numbers, I thought it was 39, not 36. Nope, that's a different beast entirely. But moving on.
Yeah. It just I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That is a slight subplot. But oh what? Anyway,
No, I don't need
You
to
were
talk about
saying.
my family situation. But yeah, no, I feel bad because Marion just gets kidnapped a lot. But overall, like the characters actually do a lot to bring it together, and I do appreciate that they don't ever like to maintain the pacing and all that. They never like go on some sort of like expository thing about like who these people are or how they met them. It's just, hey, here's my friend Sala. How's it going? And it works, honestly. It works a lot because the focus is never really on them. Were you gonna say, Rafferty?
Oh, sorry, I thought I was muted. No, I just found out that they were gonna. Steven Spielberg wanted to cast Roman Polanski in the movie.
Great.
Oh, oh, oh.
Well,
Oh,
good thing
thank
he did.
Roman Polanski
Yep.
turned it down because he's banned in Tunisia.
great.
Wow.
Oh,
Good.
I do also like it's a different thing altogether, but I am looking at the list that Wikipedia is giving, which as accurate, take it as accurate as you want. Full list of people who thought played as Indiana Jones were, at least people were considered, Tom Selleck, Bill Murray,
Okay.
Nick Nolte, Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, Tim Matheson, Nick Mancuso,
I think you're making stuff up now.
Peter Coyote, Jack Nicholson, Jeff Bridges, and John Shea.
Yeah, I think you're making stuff up. The
That's
list on
what Wikipedia's
IMDb.
listing.
Yeah, well, the unimpeachable Wikipedia. Yeah,
Yeah.
the IMDb lists. I think I think Bruce Boxleitner is probably a little more realistic. They wanted him to be an action hero for something, but you guys saw him in Tron. He was kind of wasted in Tron.
I mean, also he's in a whole bunch of sci-fi movies, so
He's in Megaforce, I believe.
great. Also, the whole thing with Harrison Ford that he apparently Spielberg really wanted him, but George Lucas was like, I don't want a situation where it's like, well, yeah, I'm just going to get Harrison Ford in all my movies, but because he was not just in Star Wars, he was in American Graffiti, wasn't he?
He was. In fact, he refused to. He refused to cut his hair for American Graffiti, so he still has 1970s hair. They hide it with the cowboy hat.
Huh.
If memory serves, actually, American Graffiti is the whole reason he got this role. Because of his past work with Lucas.
Yeah, Harrison Ford was concerned that he was getting a reputation as being difficult to work with, but then he was in 3 blockbusters in a row, so crazy.
Yep. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, going back to what Rafferty said, like the practical effects in this are absolutely fucking stellar. It cannot be overstated. Like they do absolutely amazing work with all of it, from the various the various traps, to even the use of Jones's whip, the fight scenes, the plane, and the very famous wax
That
dummies.
dude melted. That dude
Fucking
melted.
The melting at the end.
So good. He
Which is
melted, and then
crazy.
the head explosion is.
Yeah, the head smelting is one of the simplest effects. They just made wax dummies of the guys, and then they just point hair dryers at them and let them melt.
But it looked so good, is the thing, and that's what mattered.
And the head explosion, which beggars scanners. It was good.
According to IMDb, the reason why that explosion looks like crap was because they had an R rating and they had to fuzz it out.
Oh yeah. That was one thing that I was going to bring up is that this is a movie that makes you remember that, oh, right, the PG rating in the 80s was a different beast than the PG rating now.
I always bring it up that Spaceballs is rated PG.
Temple of Doom is the reason why they invented the PG-13 rating.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of I think the melting is probably the worst of it. But the dude gets chopped up by the propeller. There's several deaths in this.
To be fair, the dude getting chopped up by the propeller is a spray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even still, the movie was a lot more gruesome than I remembered it being. And I'm not complaining or anything, but
I mean, even during the beginning, there's the dude who betrayed Jones on the spikes.
yeah. And then the guy gets shot in the head in the bar. I believe he was the guy holding on to Marion. He gets shot he gets shot in the head, and they just show that straight up. So I
Yep.
mean, like there's a lot there's a lot of really great practical effects, and there are a lot of deaths in the movie. Some you don't see, like the Nazis going over the cliff.
Or the
and-
plane one.
Yeah, or the plane. You only get to see the spray. Which, being fair, I think was kind of a good choice on their part, because I think that would have been way too much.
It is, because I am someone who is of the belief that less is more. Because I don't, and also this is not a gruesome thing. It's a more about of like, oh god, that guy's dead kind of thing. So it's like it would not pay for them to like be gory about it. With the exception, that is one of the things about that makes the face melting a little bit more like substantial, because it is like, oh wow, that guy's face just melted. It makes that scene a lot more like, holy crap, what's happening?
It's a little weird you describe this a less is more movie, because this is a
Hello.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Did we have technical
Yeah.
difficulties?
Yep.
Could you repeat what you said, because it got eaten up by Discord?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw we lost one. Anyway. No, I mean, you said this movie is like less is more, but it's weird that you say that, because this movie has a lot of more in it. There's a lot going on.
Well, in the gore department, like I
Yeah.
don't think it would pay to be like super explicit about that guy getting sprayed with the thing, or like, cause like the dude's head, like dude getting shot is done in a very like minimalist camera, or like the seat, like the perspective is a
Yeah,
lot.
I think it's not until we get to like Last Crusade that they're graphically showing people getting penetrated by bullets.
And then, like, even the guy that betrays Jones at the beginning, we don't see him actually die. We just see the aftermath of it. So, like, they knew how much to give and where to pull back. And I think it really helps.
Getting an R rating.
Yeah, it helps the film, because I mean, I love violent stuff, and I love watching people get hacked up and all that. It's just I like horror. But it would have felt really out of place in this movie to have something extremely gory, even though it does kind of get gory at the end. But it felt like it didn't feel like The Thing kind of gory. It felt I'm trying to put it into words. It felt very camp in terms of how it was handled, and I think that worked in the movie's favor. Whereas if they had gone and just like shown the guy get chopped up with the propeller, I think that would have really kind of hurt the movie. Long-winded way of saying that.
Yeah. So Torpor, you're good.
Yeah, I guess. Sure.
So I had not seen this movie until like, I think the first time I watched it was like, oh, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, as I mentioned. I believe that this movie earns its reputation. It is an incredibly good film. It is probably one of the best action, or like, if you want a action adventure movie, I feel like this is probably one of the best. Like, if you have not seen this and you want to watch something of this nature, go ahead and watch this. Like, don't watch anything that came out after this that was probably aping on this. Watch this. It is just an incredibly good movie. And I really don't have anything else to say other than that. It's just a really good movie. I would say actually probably holds up better than any of the Star Wars movies.
Yes, I would agree.
I don't know. Empire Strikes Back, I think, still holds up pretty damn well.
I would rather watch Indiana Jones any day of the week.
I mean,
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think Indiana Jones was my favorite movie for many years.
I'd watch Indiana Jones over A New Hope and Return of the Jedi, no question. But I'm a little pressed about Empire Strikes Back.
I mean,
That's
they're
just
all
me.
pretty good. Yeah, they're all pretty good movies.
Sure.
Yeah. God, God, it just made me realize I'm like, oh God, we're gonna have to do Star Wars at one point, and those are gonna be
Please no.
You
fun.
don't have to. I'm
I
sure
mean, don't
another
have
person
to.
on the internet's already talked about Star Wars.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that
Nobody
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
internet has
definitely,
talked about Star
definitely at
Wars.
least one.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure it was at least one.
Yeah,
We'll be the first podcast to talk about Star Wars.
it's like when we're going to inevitably rank Neon Genesis Evangelion. No one's ever talked about that show before.
Haha, symbolism looks cool.
Save that one for a few years down the line.
Yeah. Yeah. So, does anyone have anything else to add? Because I feel like this is one that's like a weirdly. There's not a whole lot to talk. Or okay, so
Yes, let's talk about
Yeah.
archaeology.
all right.
Now, as much as this movie makes it look fun, this is any aspiring archaeologist. This is not how it works. You do not
Oh, yeah.
break into tombs,
Look,
serve all the shit, and
If
walk
there's-
away with the treasure.
so first off, this is 30s archaeology. Second off, let me tell you about my boy Lameza, who says proper archaeology involves things getting broken.
Hmm.
Proper archaeology involves lugging an MSX along with you.
This is not wrong. It's completely correct. You need an MSX to be a proper archaeologist these days. I mean, actual archaeology is boring, and even at one point, the movie shows he's a hypocrite, but that's
Yeah.
kind of the point.
It is also the thing where it's like, watching a James Bond movie, espionage does not also work like that.
Espionage is
No.
also very boring.
But yes.
Also, I do have a thing. How do you get the uniform for when he got off the boat?
He stole it from a guy.
Yeah, he beat the shit out of a dude and knocked him out.
Two
Must
of
have
'em.
blinked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
that's
dude was
scene.
passing by
The first one was too small, and then he beat up a second guy that came over to him.
and took his jacket.
And his hat.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Good.
his hat. But yeah, no, actual archaeology is very boring.
Yes, and it
No,
doesn't
like to
belong.
yeah, obviously. Like it's even to the point where like he's saying like the usual museum will buy it, no questions asked is said to Jones at one point.
It doesn't
Because
belong.
everyone knows he's up to shady shit.
It belongs in the hands of the people.
But can archaeology explain how there's a light-activated trap?
Probably.
No.
Oh, actually, I remembered
It's
something.
the aliens.
Mythbusters actually did an episode where they tried to see how that the floor trap would work, where the darts came out of the walls as he's running from the boulder, and they determined that there would absolutely be no way that he could outrun the darts. They would have fired almost immediately after stepping on the plate.
Yeah, but it looked cool.
It looked
Yeah.
cool, but it was a neat experiment, and it was kind of fun to watch. But it's been busted.
Well, this
Yeah,
movie is full of fridge moments, like we said earlier, like hey, how did he get off the submarine, or why did they build this place with so many traps, including a boulder that seals the door after you leave? How do they have all this engineering knowledge to build all
aliens.
of this, and why?
It's the aliens.
The answer is enjoy your goddamn popcorn and shut up.
Right.
No,
The answer is
you
aliens.
must be straight.
It was the
Yep.
aliens, actually.
That's not until the fourth one.
It's basically the aliens' fault.
Ugh.
And we swap out Nazis with Russians because I guess they're interchangeable according to the Indiana Jones movies.
Well, I
It
think
was
that
the
well that
50s by that point, so the Nazis were gone or
well
gone from.
out of vogue. We were in the
Yeah.
middle of the Cold War.
Yeah.
So yeah. Any other points of contention?
Also,
No.
I do love Jones at the beginning saying, "Yeah, I don't believe any of that magic stuff," and then just the next the series of movies will serve to prove him fucking wrong.
One of which was a prequel, which had magic.
Yeah, it's don't think too hard about it.
No, other than that, I mean, it's an enjoyable movie. It's really good.
Yeah, I feel like it's just like there's a lot of things you can go over this movie, but if you just want this is just a really good movie.
Is good.
And it's not problematic. Thank you.
Ah,
On a scale,
Okay,
it is not
yeah.
problematic.
It's not
is-
severely, yes.
Comparatively.
Once again, a Welshman playing an Egyptian man.
but, I
Also, the
mean,
dude who played Doc Ock playing whatever that was supposed to be at the beginning.
Oh right, yeah, it did
Oh,
have
right.
Alfred Molina in it.
Yeah. Young Alfred.
Yeah, it's weird because I never. It's only later people are saying I never thought he was Egyptian. I always thought he was.
No, he
and
Sala is Egyptian.
He's supposed to be Egyptian. I always thought he was just like an emigre or a colonial or something.
No.
yeah, I was kind of, because I was thinking that it would be like a Lawrence of Arabia kind of deal.
Nope.
I never questioned it, and pity on me.
I was just say, who?
That movie did that actually a number of times. Which later on they wouldn't do.
I mean, it was,
Much.
at least it's not the Highlander.
Oh god, the Highlander! What a ride!
I was
That's
to say
a-
where it's, oh god, what is the chain? It's Sean Connery playing a Spaniard who is also Egyptian, who is also something else.
Well, it's definitely not one of those movies where they like a problem with a lot of modern movies is either they're not caring to do any period details or they just have bad production design. Like when you see Raiders of the Lost Ark, okay, that plane that Indiana Jones has the boxing fight under with machine guns, okay, that's not a period plane, but you look at it and it looks like it's a period plane. And when Belloc is working a lot with the Nazis, there's a lot of German language. In fact, the guy who finds Jones in the base speaks nothing but German. When the commander is ordering his men to go to the front of the truck, they're speaking German. So there are a lot of those like very, like little details that make it feel a little bit real that often if you watch like a modern movie, they won't even try to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It doesn't say who what he is supposed to be.
Who is Sala?
No, not Sala. Alfred Molina's character. His name is just Saitpo or Satipo, I guess. Yeah, it doesn't say what he is supposed to. Well, he's named after a Peruvian town, so he could be Peruvian. But anyway, yeah. So yeah. Anything else?
Nope.
I'm drawing a blank. I mean, it's a good movie.
I love this movie.
Yes, it's a good movie.
All right.
Do we want to talk about the world's largest cloud tank, or is that just me?
The what?
So before you had CG, if you wanted to simulate clouds, the way to do it was to get a big tank of water and put paint in it and stream it around. This is a huge pain in the butt because you need a huge tank. It has to be the world's cleanest water. And then you have to film it in several exposures. So that scene where the ghosts come out of the
Arc.
the arc at the end. Yeah, I can't believe it. Arc. Like a lot of the wispy kind of smoke, some of it's animated in post-production, but a lot of it was used with the world's largest cloud tank, a big special effects tank that was originally built for Close Encounters. Have you ever seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which has a lot of smoke and stuff in it? And cloud tank special effects were a huge, big pain in the butt until I guess around when X-Men comes out, which is one of the first movies that has convincing clouds in it. So there was this huge cloud tank that had to be rented out, and it's used for several movies. Have we done? You guys done Dragon Slayer? Did we do Dragon Slayer?
We have not done the movie Dragon Slayer.
I think Dragon Slayer is the last movie to use the world's largest cloud tank. I don't know. This, like I said, practical. Some of these quote practical effects were these huge, crazy pain in the butt stuff that you could just do with CGI on your home computer these days.
Yeah. Okay. Any last call for trivia?
No.
All right.
I'm thinking. My brain.
I mean, we already mentioned that one scene being due to Harrison Ford having dysentery. I think
Food poisoning, yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
food poisoning.
Everybody
Okay.
got food poisoning.
Yeah,
So let's rank the
once
movie.
again, most of the cast got food poisoning. Once again, Lucas was the big exception because he brought his own supply of SpaghettiOs.
Which is extremely George Lucas.
It is so incredibly, disgustingly in character. Or like another good piece of trivia is the fact that the pit of snakes, they basically ran around all over the place trying to buy as many snakes as they could from pet shops, but still had
Oh,
to
a lot of them
substitute
are
in.
fake.
Yeah, they had to substitute in a shitload of fake snakes.
In fact, yeah, you guys probably watched the modern cut. Did they digitally restore this film? Because when both Indiana Jones and Marion fall down and the snake rears up, the cobra rears up to show its fangs, there's a sheet of glass in between them and the snake. And in original cuts of the movie, you can see the reflection of the snake in the glass. You have to like basically freeze frame it, you can see it. And I don't know if your modern cuts digitally erase that.
I think they digitally erase it, but
I didn't even notice.
I'd have to look again, but you can definitely tell that a lot of those are fake.
Yeah, it's the original big goof. There's also a famous Return of the Jedi has a botch in one of the special effects scenes that was in there forever, but I'm sure they've erased that by now.
I think the one you're talking about is when he was running down the hall. It's still with Harrison Ford, and there's a moment where he's reflected in a mirror. I think I'm trying to remember. I know I used to know a lot of the Star Wars goofs. I know the big one from A New Hope is the stormtrooper bangs his head on the door.
Oh no, the big one is the with the scene where they go here where they raid the they were at Return of the Jedi, where they say, okay, here they come. They cut from Lando and they show the scene with like 40 ships all coming at them at once. That's was a shot that had to be composited 40 times because each time you have a model had to be composited. And there's a compositing error where two of the ships have the wrong shot and so basically they have the wrong Z buffer, so they look like they're in front of other ships. But they couldn't refilm it because that shot was 40 composites that cost millions of dollars, and they had to rent a special stage to do it. So, but I'm sure that's been cleaned up by now because it was just like 5 frames.
Yeah,
I'm nerding out.
Look,
I used to read Starlog.
I also appreciate that during the out of control plane scene, fucking the out of control plane actually did run over Ford's knee, tearing a ligament.
Ooh, ouch.
Luckily for him, the heat had made the tires rubber soft.
That was kind of infamous that Harrison Ford was doing his own scenes because that boulder, the one he runs away from, he's really running away from it, and it really weighs hundreds of pounds, so it could really screw you up.
Huh.
I still think my favorite is the whip scene or the gun scene. Because for those who don't know, there's a scene in the movie where Indiana Jones faces off against a scimitar-wielding bad guy who spins his blade around and basically like eggs him on to fight him. There was supposed to be a big sword fight, but Ford was really fucking sick from food poisoning, so he just pulled out his gun and shot him.
It was better for it.
Yeah, it's much more in character.
Yeah.
Also, Rafferty, it's not just that he outran the boulder once, he outran the boulder 10 times. Because it was shot twice from 5 different angles.
Right.
Wow.
And the stumble was an accident, but they left it in because it was in character. But what was it? There's another piece of dumb. Okay, yeah, the boulder was made out of fiberglass.
Yeah, it's still pretty heavy.
Yeah.
You don't want to fuck with fiberglass.
Yeah, also, I'd imagine they'd want something that they can maneuver a bit, like if they had like a crew to do it, but also if you're just the sheer scale of that, no matter what you make out of it, that thing's going to be heavy.
Also, one of my favorite examples of Foley artistry, and I always mention this, it's one of my favorite stupid things, which is the boulder sound was not made from boulders, because they tried pushing boulders downhill and it didn't sound the way they wanted it to. But as they were leaving in a Honda Civic and coasting down a gravel embankment, the sound director is like, yes, this is the noise I need. So they hung a mic out the fucking window by the tires.
Foley artists are magicians, essentially. Or like some of the most creative people I've ever seen. Because
it requires a very specific mindset.
Like, I need to have this sound effect of someone being like, have their head cut off. I have this head of lettuce and a knife.
See, now that reminds me of the story of kind of jumping a little bit off track here, but Lord of the Rings, where Christopher Lee basically had to tell the director that they got the sound of a guy being stabbed in the back wrong because he knew what the sound actually was.
Yeah. Yep. Also, like the expression too, which was like, it's like, no, let me show you what would happen when a dude gets stabbed. Oh, trust me, I know what this looks like. I may or may not have done this myself.
Apparently, The Well of Souls was filmed on the same set used for the Overlook Hotel in The Shining,
Huh.
which was done a year earlier. Yeah, there's a lot of neat trivia about this movie.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, Rafferty, you mentioned the German. The German is actually very clunky, very obviously American-speaking German, but it is like appreciated nonetheless. But they did have to dub over it in the German version because it was not good German.
Yeah.
So I guess we're ranking this basically
Yeah.
at 3 after Torpid like lowers the curve, or actually Torpid likes this one.
Well, let's go through the paces. So we're going to rank this using our normal 1 to 21 scale, with 1 being absolute mastercraft, very little can be done to improve it, and to 21, which is absolute garbage, not even worth like fun, ironically watching. So, Axe, what would you give this out of a 1 to 21?
Honestly, you know what? I'm gonna say 1. I think this movie holds up really well, and it stands out as one of the better films of its time. I really enjoy this one.
All right, DM.
I'll say 2.
All right, Rafferty.
Said I do like.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
As far as the films go, I do like Last Crusade better. I think that one does a few things better, but otherwise, it's a very good movie.
All right, Rafferty.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 1 because I should mention that another way to appreciate this movie is with Steven Soderbergh made a cut of the movie that's in black and white with the soundtrack removed. And you can watch it and still follow along with the movie, which shows the quality of the directing. So yeah, this movie just gets better with time. And even though we make fun of the cuts, it's like it's an action movie. It's the number 1 action movie. I'm going with number 1.
All right, Torpo.
I mean, I almost out of spite want to fucking rate it lower because of Rafferty's saltiness about me fucking bitching about other rankings.
You're
Piece of
welcome.
shit. But I say a 1. It is far and away one of my favorite movies. And Last Crusade is also very good, and I would say it's a tough one between the two of them. But
I would also argue that you could both have them at 1.
yes. But regardless, I will say personally, this is honestly a 1 to me.
I also
like it's incredibly good, and there's nothing else quite like it.
Yeah, which is the thing. It's like nothing has come close to doing an adventure movie quite like this. I mean, outside of like Last Crusade, but yeah. I also would
time
give
to
it
watch
1.
National Treasure.
No, I watched that. My parents had a bad habit of watching the same movie over and over again.
Oh no!
One of the movies that my dad watched over and over was National Treasure. So that and Sahara, which is another movie that's like this, nowhere near as good.
Wow.
I actually like National Treasure.
I mean, it's not a bad movie,
Damn,
but
there's
it's
no
nowhere near this.
National Treasure video game.
There is not. So here's a re-ranking of a lot of this stuff. We had a discussion about what movies are 1 and what movies are 2. Like when you have something like this, what is the thing that is a difference that makes something a 1 or a 2? And I have an idea on what we can do to actually differentiate between those two. I mean, granted, a lot of this we see at 1, but I do want to try something though. What I have here is right now, and I'm probably going to need to rectify, like do some tinkering with this. But in general, my idea for how we should kind of handle a 1 is go through some questions to kind of make sure that it is 1 material. And these are it's not like super quiz questions, but it's things to consider. So first question, does this fall within the top 4% of all media? Because if you think about 1 to 21, you do the division on it, you're talking about things that are 1 would be like the top 4%. And this is all movies in general.
Well, yes. I mean, for years it was one of the top grossing movies ever, so it's popular, and critics loved it then and love it now.
So I would say yes, that makes sense for it. Now in a sub kind of thing under that, because if we're talking about genre things, because I know a lot of the thing was, is it top of its genre? Do you think that this is in the top 2% of its genre/type, and you can kind of define that as you'd want? Like, I guess in this case, it would be like adventure movies like this or action movies.
Fuck yeah, I would say it. I mean, I would watch this over Die Hard, and we've talked about Die Hard being like top of the form kind of action film. I think this is a better film than Die Hard. Like, this is absolutely within the top 2% of action films.
Yeah, I'd second that.
Yeah.
Aside from like National Treasure and The Librarians, I can't really think of any other movies in this genre. So yeah.
Oh, there's an Alan Quartermain movie.
Ugh.
Yeah. There's a lot of
this movie so bad.
Yeah, but there's like
Alan
Romancing the
Quartermain
Stone.
Gets dragged behind a train. So like to one up it, Indiana Jones gets dragged behind a truck. Alan Quartermain gets dragged behind the train, which begs the question: aren't all those railroad ties just smacking into his face? It's so bad.
Oh yeah, The Mummy. That's also one.
There's
yeah.
a Mummy.
Yeah.
There's
Mummy's
Romancing
also
the
very good.
There's also Romancing the Stone, which is not a case where it's not nearly as good.
Do not fuck around.
No, yeah, I love The Mummy, but the Mummy wisely did different things than this movie.
Yeah.
But
the
they have a
Mummy
lot
was
in
not trying to be this.
Yeah. It's trying to be its own
It copies. It knows what was good from Raiders of the Lost Ark and but doesn't imitate them. So that's what makes it really great. I could go on and on about The Mummy.
And then the sequels happened, and
First one's fine.
First one's good.
first one's really good. Yeah.
Now this is one that we can kind of, and I put a qualifier on this. Does it utilize 100% of its runtime within
Yes.
reason?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, In
Absolutely.
fact, the major complaint I think some of us had was there's stuff missing from this movie that it needs to have, but we're pretty much in agreement. They cut them out because the movie's already overstuffed. It's already full.
It is 2 hours long, as is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I phrase it like that because I didn't want to say does it, like, I want to make sure that just because it's long is not bad, but if it's as long as it uses that
Doesn't
time.
warrant the length, yeah.
Yeah. Does it make good use
Oh,
of the time that
Yeah,
it
I
has?
should add one more thing that's going to blow your minds. So the only good scene from Temple of Doom is that end where they go through the volcano. That was originally in the Raiders of the Lost Ark script. They were going to end with that, but they didn't because not only is there too much stuff in Raiders of the Lost Ark, but also that would have made their budget go through the roof. So no, they put that in Temple of Doom, which is why I took up in Temple of Doom for no good reason.
Good,
Temple
perfect. Sounds
of
like a
Doom
very
sucks.
Temple of Doom move.
Okay. So the next one, does it have universal appeal? Which I would argue yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
it not-
many Japanese video games are there of Raiders of the Lost Ark?
I think there's
Alright, let's talk about Lana for a hot second.
Ubisoft deal is so great that after this movie comes out, Fedora is forever branded as generic Explorer. I mean, La Mulana rips this off.
Yep.
yep, La Mulana. Was it?
I believe there's two NES games that were only released. One was a Game Boy game and an NES game. Indiana Jones were only released in Japan.
Not any yes, but there is. I'm trying to think. There's also this was very influential even in Japan because there's it's a small thing, but Tower of Babel by Namco. The main character is a protagonist like this, named Indiana Borgnine. Which
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, there was a Raiders of the Lost Ark Atari game. There's
oh yeah. But in general, when I think Universal, like it's the like it not necessarily like worldwide Universal, but like it doesn't require like knowledge. Like it's not like a thing that only certain people of a subgenre will like. This is, you can, like, if you want to watch a movie, you can watch this. No, like 95% of people, you're gonna like this movie.
Well, I'm not sure I'd use that as something that would make it, like universality is not necessarily a quality that makes something great. That said, this movie, once again, going back to the Soderbergh edit, the 2014 edit, because if you watch that with no language cues and no audio cues, you can still make out what's going on in the movie. So yeah, it has a large amount of universal appeal because the way the actors express themselves, the way it's directed, and the set design, you can still pick up what's going on here even without all of that. It's incredibly strong with its own vocabulary.
I mean, I go at it from a different angle. I agree that it's universal, but I think it's more just because it sits in a specific genre of film, action, and action generally can be kind of approachable by just about anybody. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who's like, "Oh yeah, I hate action films." Um, so I mean, it already sits in an easy genre to kind of be accepted in, but it also manages to do a lot with that. It manages to be a bit of a comedy. It manages to have drama, romance. Like it manages to fit a number of different things into one movie, and never at one time feeling like any of those aspects is aping the others. It all just seems to kind of blend in together. And I think it approaches a number of things that people would enjoy.
I mean, I could go. Remember when we watched the Batman movie?
Yes.
So the Batman movie, the fight scenes are totally flaccid because the main character can't move and doesn't express any emotions. There's an escape sequence from a burning factory that the main character blew up themselves and are just and are not even in any peril because the vehicle's being remotely controlled. I mean, but Batman was a huge success with audiences, and lots of people will even defend that movie these days. You compare that to Raiders of the Lost Ark, where our main hero doesn't have all of those resources, is constantly getting his butt kicked, but he's constantly striving. Like it's way you can appreciate what's going on in Raiders way more. There's never any of those moments that we had in Batman where we're asking, wait a minute, why is he doing this, or what, or why are they just letting him get away with this? And of course, our big question: we're 40 minutes in this movie. What happened to Batman?
Yeah, I mean, also it's a thing of like he doesn't have a tool for every occasion. He's just smart and resourceful and just makes do with what he's got.
Oh, the
for any
bar scene where
situation.
he says whiskey, and then she hands it to him so he can bash him in the head. That is just, or the other thing where Tote comes in and he says, kill them both. And that's when the guy, who's wrestling with him turns his gun on the guys who are about to shoot him, and they look at each other and smile, and he goes, yeah, thanks, and then punches him. It's got those comedy elements, but it's also got those, you believe he's in peril, but there's also levity, and everything follows everything else. It's so expertly pasted together that it's seamless. It just looks so easy.
But and the other thing too is it doesn't lean too heavy on the comedy, because that would absolutely have ruined the entire tone of the film. It knows exactly what notes to hit when it comes to being funny, when to do it, and how much. Like they knew how much to do in each little category, and it never at one time feels like one is too much.
Right, because if you I'm glad you brought that up, because if you want to see the opposite of that, you go watch Crystal Skull, because Crystal Skull doesn't know when to lay off the comedy.
Yeah, that was my big problem with it. It leaned way too hard into it. It at times kind of felt like a National Lampoon movie.
But
Whereas-
you don't like Shia LaBeouf swinging through the treetops with the monkeys?
I don't like Shia LaBeouf standing between two jeeps and getting his nuts hit by branches the entire time.
I don't like Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf.
Right. So
Both of
any
you are
more
justified.
questions on your number one list?
So basically the other thing that the other question that I had, and actually this is kind of redundant now that I think about it, like I said, just working this out, does it, in its entirety of its runtime, does the quality ever dip into like the meh territory, or like below that? Because of course there'll be downtimes in a movie, like that's fine, but does it ever like have like really bad moments?
I don't think it wastes a single moment. In fact, I know it's long, but I really wish that they had kept in the scene where Jones learns about the Ark's true nature, because I think that was kind of important. And I feel that's the only gripe I have against the movie is that scene's not in there. Other than that,
I can't believe you're not griping about the submarine. The submarine was like such a huge issue.
Well, I think that one is, I don't know.
I mean, it's also a fair point because the submarine they don't just go like a hop, skip, and a jump. They go a really long fucking way. So he spends what is probably a couple of days on top of the submarine. Yeah, that is a big problem, and you're right. I should gripe about it.
But it's also a testament to the breathless pace of the movie and how fast it goes that no one seems to notice that.
Yeah, like no one's perfect.
Yeah.
Like
No.
also this movie's really long as it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of my question. I feel like this is deserving of a 1. I feel like from the discussion, like, yeah, I think this gets a 1.
Just
So, yeah.
taking these ranking sessions and making them longer.
Well, I mean, how many other? Well, I don't know if I want to answer that question, but how many other ones are we going to go through? This is we've done this for this is the 63rd episode. This is our 4th one.
This might be your only uncontroversial number 1.
I think Die Hard was also no, because Red Line and Die Hard, I believe, were also pretty uncontroversial.
Those were both universal.
Yeah, the only controversial one has been the Addams Family. It's mostly because of me.
Yes,
and that was mostly just you making a point. It wasn't really about really questioning it. It was more trying to push for a proper definition for one.
To be fair, I
making a
don't
point.
think it deserves a 1, but I'm not going
Oh.
to fight it being a 1 either. It's that kind of difference, but I also wanted the discussion to be had because of that reason.
yep.
Which is fair.
All right. Also, I'm going through my genres and what the hell is MSCL? Do I have a muscle
Wrestling.
genre? Musical.
Give that.
Musical.
Damn,
Oh.
I thought I was right.
Oh, you did that for Rhapsody.
No, I just had that because I was thinking of movie genres. I think
Ah.
I don't know what musical we'd ever do, but
Thought I was right, but I guess I'm not.
They don't normally make video games based off of musicals.
No.
they don't. But it's like, of course, I put musical in there, but I forget to put comedy.
Mm.
Which, what the? I don't want. Do I have a thing that's? No, it's not superhero. I guess we'll just do action. I don't know what other thing I'd call it. Tone is definitely. I have an entire category for this one.
Adventure Ho.
Yeah. I don't. I think technically I should put a gore warning because that dude's face melted.
Yes. There's more than that, but yes.
And the guy with
What?
the spikes at the beginning.
Oh yeah. So, but that's
That's a blood
pretty much it.
smattering too, to a lesser degree.
Yeah.
Like
Guy falls
there's
under a
lot.
truck and gets graphically run over.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything? Let's see. Do we want to call out anything for music, charm, cinematography, storytelling, action, and art?
I can't believe we got this far and no one brought up the music.
I feel like
That was
that's a given.
incredible.
Yes, the Raiders March is an incredible piece of music. I kind of want to put charm, actually. I want to give a thumbs up for charm.
There's a lot of charm in this film.
It's a very charming film.
The camera work is fucking fantastic.
The cameras work great. I don't know if I want to give for storytelling though, because
No, there's not much in the way of a story, and that's pretty
That's fine.
intentional.
Action. Let's give
Action's
that.
Yes.
Also,
Sets are
it
fucking
looks
great.
really great.
Yeah.
The effects and the sets are both very good, yeah.
Let's see, yay or nay? I can't. If anything, I don't know what to put for either of those.
For what?
For like
I-
yay or nay, like anything to call out because I think.
Oh, we definitely. This movie's iconic. I mean, after this movie
Oh, yeah.
comes out, you can. Fedora becomes shorthand for adventurer. Whips is the idea. I don't think a whip would be in Castlevania if it wasn't for this movie. Putting whips in people's consciousness as something you could use as an action hero. And the entire idea of like fighting Nazis. Well, I mean, sure they were fighting bad guys, but by the 80s that was kind of passé. Bringing it back. And also, yeah, there's just so much about this movie that's imitated that you put somebody running away from a giant rolling boulder. They do it in The Simpsons. They do it in UHF. You can still quote this movie. People are still doing as memes, sitting there with the bag of sand, trying to figure out if it's the same weight as the idol you're going to swap in. They're still doing that 40 years later.
Also, mentioning the boulder, and you were thinking about games that are based off of Indiana Jones. Ernest Evans.
God.
Yeah. So definitely this movie is iconic.
Yeah.
And it's had a huge, like you said, had a huge influence on a lot of sections of media.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to give it the among the best, yay, because it deserves it. So, I guess that's really all we need to say for Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's a really good movie.
Why is sound effects under a yay and nay charm?
I don't know. Because it is.
Okay. Well, because I guess it's one of those things we're still wrapping up sound design and music into the same category, which is still weird to me, but whatever.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's good for Raiders of the Lost Ark. It is a well-deserved one.
It's a good movie.
It's a very good movie. So, before we head out, Axe, is there anything you want to plug?
Nope.
DM, is there anything you want to plug?
Yes. Follow my Twitch, twitch.tv/deathmaster780. I stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 p.m. EST.
All right. Rafferty.
Well, speaking of action adventure against fighting the supernatural, if you're listening to this on the 14th of January, we're doing Abyss, which is a tabletop role-playing game of action horror adventure, although it leans a little bit more towards Castlevania and Devil May Cry and that kind of jazz. It's in Kickstarter right now, and you can pledge for unique rewards. Also, we do stuff over at sanguinegames.com.
All right. Turbo.
Twitch.tv/torpidtypist and @torpidtypist on Twitter. And I mean, I can't really plug anything because the boulder's already plugged up the door.
Yeah. All right. So with that, our next thing that we're taking a look at is a little bit of a departure from this. We're taking because the thing is we're taking a look at this franchise. You'd think that we'd probably start with something like, I don't know, Castle Cagliostro. But we don't do things simple here. We're tackling Lupin the Third next week. But we're taking a look at one of the first movies that's not Castle Cagliostro. We're taking a look at Secret of Mamo, which has a lot more to do with the show, like the animated one, than it's a Lupin the Third-esque thing. But yeah, one of the multitude of films of Lupin the Third. So yeah, that'll be pretty interesting next week. So hopefully you tune in for that one. And thank you all for listening.
Bye.
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 Me.
If you would like to look at the full list of rankings for yourself, please visit r3.ldp.life and go to the Media Delta List tab. If you would like to watch Media Delta's sister show, Retro Rank Rhapsody, you can either watch at youtube.ldp.life or by tuning into twitch.tv/loadedpuzzlo at 7:30 p.m. on Fridays, 2:30 p.m. on Saturdays, and 1 p.m. on Sundays. All those times are from the Eastern U.S. time zone. If you would like to discuss this episode with the community, you can do so by joining our Discord server, which you can do so by going to discord.ldp.life. Thank you again for listening, and I hope you tune in for our next episode.